Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me pretty good? Okay, awesome. I had some speaker issues before. So thank you, everyone, and thank you for waiting around and listening to these wonderful presentations all day. I have definitely been inspired. There's some great information, so I appreciate the opportunity to meet the wonderful ladies that I've met today. But again, I want to introduce myself. My name is Tamori Richardson, and I am a professional motivational speaker, communication specialist. I'm also a coach, mental health advocate, and I am an author. One of my greatest loves and joys is having the benefit and the ability to be able to write a book. I never thought I'd be able to do that, so here I am. But I want to talk to you today about reinventing yourself, how to do it, when to do it, and why you should do it, and everything in between. And what we're going to talk about is three key elements that I have found for myself, being a conqueror of domestic violence, being a mother of two teenage children, being an entrepreneur, a professional speaker, and an author, how I was able to take these three key things and be able to kind of mold myself into something, a much better version of myself. And so I want to be able to share that with you today. I'm going to share my screen with you because I have a couple of slide presentations here. And the three steps, the first step is planning. So I want to talk to you about when you're on your road to reinvention, what is the steps of planning? How do you create a plan for yourself? What's tangible? What's realistic? What's not? Step two, we're going to talk about excuses and naysayers and how to drown out the noise, what's appropriate, what's beneficial, and what's actually just noise that's not going to help you achieve your goal. And the last step is going to be obstacles, what we all have to overcome, the things that we have to hurdle in order to get to the much better version of ourselves. So let's talk about planning and the importance of that. The reason of a plan when you're getting ready to reinvent yourself, okay, you've been something for a very long period of time and you've decided for whatever reason you need to now shift gears and decide to do something different. A plan is, if you will, a roadmap. And we all know when you're going on road trips or family vacations, that roadmap is essential to you getting there, because without it, you're going to get no place and you're going to get there fast and in a hurry. But it's important to have a roadmap that's going to help you know these are the steps that are going to get me to success, especially if you're coming out of a situation of trauma. So let's talk about what that is, okay? So research and data, why is that important? So there's been some great speakers today that have spoken and talked about what they do and how that's important to being an entrepreneur. But research and data are extremely important because research helps you to develop who you are, the style. What is my style? Who am I? Your style is, in an essence, kind of like if you're going into an interview, right? You're sending someone your resume. They don't know anything about you. They just know what's actually on this resume. But when they meet you and get to know who you are, that's a representation of who you are, your personality, your character. It helps to drive why people should believe in you, why they should care about who you are and what it is that you are directing them towards. Whether you decide that you want to get into the world of coaching or entrepreneurship, if you're changing a field or going back to college, and or even being a stay-at-home mom. And we've talked about this today, that COVID has dealt us a really dirty hand, right? COVID-19 has taken us into a world of where we have to do different things. We have to become sometimes different people. We have to open our mind and expand and sharpen the skills that we have to be able to accommodate this new world that we have. So now we're living on Reinvent Yourself Avenue and around the corner from Starting Fresh Boulevard. What do we do and how do we go about doing it? Marketing strategy. One of the ladies today, Diana Morgan, really spoke in detail about the importance of having a marketing strategy. When I got out of my marriage and decided that I needed to do something new because I had completely lost sense of self, I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I was good at speaking. I knew I had a story to tell, but how do I get that story out there, right? Why do you care about the story that I have? So that's why the strategies for marketing is important. And not only that, but doing the data, finding out who's already communicating. Why are they going to care about Tamori communicating? What does my story mean for you, and how can you benefit from it? So getting the research, finding out the platforms that are going to be beneficial, and I know Katarina also spoke into this as well, the importance of knowing how you're going to best be perceived to your audience, how you're going to be able to benefit your audience, how to get your message out there to transcend to various different individuals and to circulate. And what data does is it creates a timeline and an outline for you to be able to do that. I consider data to be dollars and cents, right? We've also talked about the target audience and demographics. When I speak to women and sometimes men, when I do domestic violence keynote addresses, I make sure that I'm touching and impressing my audience with not only my knowledge, but also the connection emotionally, but also every facet of that conversation. I make sure that it's geared towards that audience. When I talk to someone who's a domestic violence survivor, and I call myself a domestic violence conqueror, I want them to understand why I use that terminology. I talk to them about financial independence, seeing the signs ahead of time. Now, it would do me no good to have certain conversations in audiences that it doesn't benefit, but in that audience, it does. So if I'm coaching someone about becoming an author or taking a shift in their field, then you need to make sure that you're speaking to someone that specifically is a connection to them. For instance, if you're wanting to be an author, what type of author? Self-help, children's books, fiction or nonfiction, all of those are important. But I think whenever you're changing gears, and it's important to change gears, it's important to understand always, who is my customer? How does my product affect someone? And why do they in fact care about the product that I am offering? How does it transcend to them? That's important. Whether you be a coach, you decide to be a teacher, an entrepreneur, or even an author, it's important that you always have a targeted demographics and you focus on that. And if this is your demographics, don't get into a wide range of a lot of different things. That'll sometimes overwhelm you, and now you're back to trying to reinvent yourself again. So it's very important to be very deliberate with that. And when in doubt, a mentor will help you be able to hit all of those different avenues that you need to be successful in the realm that you need to. So if you're starting fresh in a totally different career, make sure it's something you can do, you have the experience to do, it's tangible, and if you need the necessary resources, you find those resources and you connect yourself with them. A good mentor, and we've seen a lot of great mentors and coaches today, will be able to help you with your style. Create a marketing strategy. Do the data so you can ascertain how this is financially, physically, and emotionally going to be able to help you as you move along, and they'll be able to help you guide this around the designated audience that it's intended for, so that you have a specific niche and that you're not all over the place. And that's very important that you do that as well. I also wanted to talk to you about naysayers and the excuses that we find ourselves coming up with, right? And those who are in our lives who, and not all naysayers are bad. Let's be clear. We have family members and will ask us questions like, well, are you certain this is the field and the career path you want to take? Or can you afford to shift up? You know, what about your retirement? Or even, what does your family think about that? You have to be unapologetic and you have to be deliberate. If you actually know that this is the path you are taking, I do not care if anyone believes you can do it, if they feel it's the best direction for you, if they think you are going to be successful at it. None of those things are of your concern. You should be deliberate in the lifestyle you choose, deliberate in the path that you take, and be very certain and deliberate with how you decide to move forward. So when someone asks you, well, are you certain? Not only am I certain, I've already started the steps towards it. So when they ask you, well, can you afford it? Well, unless you are going to be a sponsorship or an investor, don't worry about my finances. I'm doing very well. And if they ask you about your family's connection and how's this going to affect your family, well, they're going to maneuver and pivot and dodge, and we're going to make it happen like we've done everything and how I've been supporting the family for years. So it's important that you know, you understand, and you make no excuses. One of the things that I have found being an entrepreneur and doing business for myself is that people will have a lot of reasons of why you shouldn't. And we're all human beings. And we want to add a boy and add a girl and someone to pat us on our back and tell us, oh, great job, you're doing good, and I'm really proud of you. But here's the reality. Whatever you decide to do, you have to be your biggest cheerleader. You have to know you can do it. And that's the importance of having a plan in place. Because a plan means that I have looked at the beginning, the middle, and the end. I know how I can be successful, and I know how I can fail. And if I plan this strategically and well enough, then I will be able to do what I need to do and move forward and forge ahead. That's the importance of a plan and being strategic as you move forward into a whole nother plateau of life. You'll hear me say this throughout my presentation a lot, being deliberate. There's a difference between deliberate and accidental. There's a reason why people get in trouble for deliberate behavior, because that was intentional. That was what they intended to do. There's no excuses. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. That was the agenda. And when you are looking to be successful, when you are looking to forge ahead, you be deliberate with it, because accident is just what it is. I didn't intend to do it. I didn't know how to do it. I'm sorry that I did it. I make no excuses for wanting to be successful and doing what I need to do with integrity and honor to do so. So I want to make sure to encourage you to always make sure that the excuses are not going to be things that are going to stagnate you. Because I can only believe in you, and people can only believe in me as far as I have belief in myself. And if you're getting sidetracked from the mission and you're invalidating your own purpose, well, then no one's going to believe in you. And then why should they? You have to make sure that you do not stagnate yourself. We're going to talk about obstacles, what obstacles are, how they come into play, big or small. But always be deliberate in who you are and in everything that you do. That's going to be the stuff that's going to carry you on over when days are hard and it's difficult. Let's talk about obstacles. What do they look like? Are they things? Are they people? Are your obstacles big or small? Is your obstacle you? Let's talk about that. I want to share with you my personal story of an obstacle that could have stifled me, but helped me to get to where I am today. And although it was trauma, it was a trauma that I came out on the other end of. I got married in 2014. I got married to someone who seemed very put together. You would not have noticed that there was any difference in this man. I grew up with a mother. My mother was single. She had 5 children. I have 4 older brothers. I'm the youngest and the only girl. So I grew up with a lot of structure. I grew up with a religious background. So I didn't know what certain behaviors look like. Even as I've gotten older, I've stayed pretty well contained in the life and the box that was created for me. But I married someone and found out within a couple of months of marriage that he was a ferocious meth addict. I wasn't around drug addiction. I didn't know any drug addicts. I'd lived a very sheltered life. So I didn't know I'd married someone that would sell you or his soul for a hit. We also found out a few months later he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and schizophrenic. And I'm sure he didn't know that, but as you can imagine, it heightened already the level of chaos that was being created. And I knew nothing about mental health. I knew nothing about drug addiction. I was not prepared to handle any of this. Prior to me meeting him, I had a successful life. I had 2 children prior. My kids had not lived in chaos, didn't know what that was. I'm a natural born fixer, let me tell you that. And I was, being the only girl with 4 older brothers, there was a lot of fixing. I have a lot of experience with it, right? But this was something very dark and something very cynical. And I couldn't mold it, I couldn't shape it, and I couldn't fix it. I started off as a very vibrant woman, very confident, very capable, very tenacious, self-starter, you name it, that was me. I could make decisions at the drop of a dime. But all of a sudden, I married someone who I didn't know had a history of beating women, who I didn't know had abandoned every last one of his children, and they had ended up in foster care, that I didn't know did not properly manage his own private life. So he had a great cover and a great screen in front of himself when I got ready to marry him. Now, I always tell people, because I don't want anyone feeling sorry for me, because I've turned out on the end of this very well, but I always take personal responsibility for any and all of my actions. And although he's 98% to blame for all of the misconduct, I always accept the onus on what I could have done better and different, that I could have held my ground with my boundaries, that I should have done my research better, that I should have checked in on his family structure, would have given me ideas that I needed to know to make an educated decision on the type of person that I was getting ready to marry. And I didn't do that. So I didn't realize that I was marrying a time bomb that wasn't getting ready to tick and ready to explode, was always ticking and always exploding. I no longer had aspirations to do much. My only aspiration was to get through the day without being called out my name, yelled at because maybe I thought the sky was blue and his mind told him the sky was purple. That was my day-to-day operation. So I was no longer conducting my business. I was going to his treatments for recovery and mental health and sobriety 7 days a week, even to the point of I would sit in the car and wait for him. I didn't realize that he was training me. He was training me to accept behavior of abuse. He was training me to negate myself. He was training me to put him on the front burner and his narcissistic needs on the front burner of this bad, inappropriate, non-conducive, and non-healthy behavior. And that's what he was training me to do. This was an obstacle. But was he my biggest obstacle? I think some of you might think, yeah, he really wasn't. Before he came along, I'd lived a healthy and productive life. I allowed someone to come in. I was my biggest obstacle. I let bad conduct, bad behavior, no boundaries, disruption, dysfunction. I allowed all of those elements to come in and disrupt a seemingly healthy life without a question, without a research, without anything that would tell me that this man would be able to carry on and allow and help me to function in a healthy manner. So I accept the responsibility with that. So when I say that there are obstacles, that was a huge obstacle. By the time I got out of the marriage, due to his infidelity, and I tell people if I could at this point in time give the woman a thank you note, I would give it to her, because she took away a trauma. And me being a fixer, I would have probably continued trying to fix. But always one line that I have is that I don't do infidelity. And I really, truly appreciate that having had happened. But what I know to be certain is by the time I got out of that relationship, I was diagnosed with anxiety. I could no longer make decisions. My nerves was rattled, so my kids couldn't have the TV up loud because there was so much screaming and yelling, threats and abuse that had gone on previously in the relationship, that I no longer knew how to function as a confident, capable woman with a lot of self-esteem. So what I did was I realized, Tamori, this isn't you. This isn't who you are. But most importantly, there are women out there. There are women who are going through the same thing, if not worse, who need to have the support, who need to know how to be able to maneuver themselves away from the trauma, from the hurt, and from the pain, and to be able to put themselves in a much better place and not look back. As I speak on my situation, I do podcasts, radio shows, all types of interviews. The one thing I never do, I never badmouth my ex. I never make him look like he's the bad guy, because I really do truly believe that drug addiction isn't a disease. I do know that mental health and issues that are not taken care of is a disease. And when you understand that, you do understand that there are portions of it that the person really has very little control. But what I do make clear is I am not responsible for any of those things that he's dealing with. I don't have a dog in that fight. I am not his father that introduced him to drug addiction. I am not his mother that abandoned him. I am not the family structure that thinks chaos and hell and wreaking havoc is susceptible and it is beneficial. So it's presumptuous of me as a person who is a fixer to think that I could come in, change, alter, shape, and make a grown man anew, where for at the very least 40 some years, he's been destructive. He's been not able to function as an adult, not have normal, relatable, tangible relationships at the very least. So when I want you to do here as audience members and participants and coaches and mentors and women who are shaping their own world and becoming new, is to ask yourself, list 3 things that's preventing you from being your very best self. What are those 3 things? Could it be family? And they don't have to be bad things. I have 2 kids and I'm a very involved mom. Their dad is very involved. But what I have to do as a mother who deserves to have her own career, who deserves to have her own life, I have to put those things in balance. What 3 things in your life that you are either using as an excuse, allowing it to be an obstacle? I always tell people I didn't allow a man to be my obstacle that thought women were supposed to be the comparable to a punching bag. I'm not going to allow anything and anyone to deter me from the mission and for what my goals are. And I talk to women and I talk to men about the importance, because you don't even know that the value of your life can be snuffed out. The purpose of your life can be snuffed out by anyone who is not on your mission. Reinventing yourself if it's necessary, if it's possible, starting fresh, starting new. COVID has given us a whole new arena to do that in. You've got time. Figure out this Zoom if you don't know how to do it. Figure out how to market yourself. Some of the ladies said it best. Most importantly, Katarina, put yourself out there and do a webinar of yourself for an hour on Facebook Live or on YouTube Live. What do you have to lose? Showcase who you are. My best revenge will always be my success. It will always be that whatever you attempted and tried to do, you did absolutely nothing. But I shine, I glow, I flourish. Look at you. That's my best revenge. I don't have to do anything else. So think about how you can. What is your purpose? And even if it's service, of being of service, I believe it's my job to be of service to other women and to other men, and to help them to be able to see their full potential and how to do that, how to go about navigating who they are, why you're here, what you were put on this earth to be. I always tell people I was made in God's image, and He didn't put me on this earth to be abused by anyone, to be degraded, to be disrespected, to be dismissed. But I also have to understand that it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm heard, that I am seen, that what I want to do, that I knock down hurdles, that I operate like I'm an Olympian gold medalist and I'm jumping over hurdles like it's nothing. That's what the goal is for me in everything I do in life. I make sure that I'm a success at it. And if I can't be successful at it, I accept the failure. But I guarantee you, I will jump over that hurdle. I want to encourage all of you to continue to reinvent yourself, to continue to be the best you, figure out what those obstacles are in life and what might be dragging you down and sorry, I videoed myself out. And what might be dragging you down and taking you from a place of growth and where you can be a better person and where you can lend your assistance to other women. There are women out there that are looking for the support. And if women who are joint, women who have suffered through the hands of domestic violence, there are also men who have suffered through domestic violence. It is our obligation to be of service and help the next woman to navigate it and to see how to get out of it, as not to be the portrait of abuse or degradation or whatever that might be. Please figure out who and what you can do. And I would encourage you to seek, create a plan, knock out all of the excuses, and be the best you that you can be. In closing, I'd like to say that John Grisham said it best when he said, each of you is an original. Each of you have a distinctive voice. And when you find it, your story will be told and you will be heard. Continue to shine and do not allow anyone to deter you from your mission, becoming new, becoming fresh, becoming something new and authentic, and be deliberate. Be deliberate you and be deliberate in how you operate and move. I have my contact information up on the screen. Again, my name is Tamori Richardson. T. Leanne Speaking Pros LLC is my company. And I'm on Facebook. Find me on Facebook. Follow me. And I'm also on LinkedIn as well. And let's connect with each other. Also, I have August 28th, I have a webinar coming up, Narcissism, and I have a special guest. I think it's important for women and men to see that sometimes bad relationships are not just bad relationships, but you are dealing with someone who is really damaged and their behavior and conduct is deliberate in what it looks like. So I want to encourage you. I just finished my book, Trusting Someone Else's Heart. It comes out more in detail. It deals more with the situation that I dealt with, kind of play by play, and the importance of why entitled it Trusting Someone Else's Heart, because really isn't that what we do? We trust that you say that love, honor, and respect legitimately is love, honor, and respect. And so we go over that in detail. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I will stop my screen share and hand it back over to Katarina, I believe.